Visible?
Yes, ma'am. Screen
Okay.
is visible.
Uh, okay, the full screen is okay, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
right. So whenever we talk about food, so this is something that has been like inspiring me for, I guess now about 20 years. And it all began with understanding what food safety was all about. So initially, when people spoke about food safety, there were very big concerns about, whether we have enough food first place. Food safety is a later feature, but food security is something that was more critical at one point of time. And then the conversation moved to, okay, you may have enough food, but is that food safe? So that was also a big question mark, because unless the food is safe, if you provide enough food also makes no difference, because at the end of the day, it might cause harm or illness to the consumer. So that was the movement from food security to food safety. Now, when we talk about food safety or safe food, what is it exactly? Each of us, we actually consume foods in different places. Most of the audience here, can you just think of a time when you have consumed food outside of your home? Just any of you. It could be a hotel, it could be a restaurant, it could be some street food, it could be in some dhaba, anywhere. So when we go and consume this food, what goes on in our head is that when I consume this food, it will not cause any harm or illness to me. So this exactly has been picked up and uh, you know b- made up into a standard, so that it does not create a concern to the consumer. So the concept that the food will not cause harm to the consumer when it is prepared or consumed as per its intended use. That means if you have probably a processed food which you have bought from the market, and it tells you that you have to add hot water to it and then keep it for about 10 minutes, then stir it and consume. And if you say, no, I will not add hot water, but I want to consume it as it is, then definitely there is a possibility that you may not have all the safety that is desired in that food, because there is a process line which is further defined, a processing that is further defined by the manufacturer or the processor, which ensures that the food is in the consumable state and is safe for consumption. So, what is safe food at the end of the day? Now we have identified a few hazards. Okay, we have identified some hazards like microbiological, chemical, physical, and allergen. So, when we talk about safe food, we are saying that the food product that we are consuming is free from this microbiological, chemical, physical, or allergens, physical hazards or allergens, and it is not likely to cause any harm or injury if I consume it the way I have been instructed to consume. Okay, so that's what safe food is all about. Now, also, when we talk about the food safety management system standard, why did it come into existence? So, when we talk about the mid 1900s and the beginning of this millennium, there were too much of progress and industrialization across the globe, which actually needed people to move from one place to another. Okay, so this definitely led to changes in food habits. There were food handling practices which were seen in different parts of the globe, and every food has a different way of handling. So, of course, when you want to have a similar food from some another country on your plate, so definitely that handling practice has to be addressed. Then there were changes in the products, technological advances were there, so there were changes in the processes. And then, of course, as I said, there was globalization of trade. So earlier, even if you look at in the 1970s or 1980s, if you had to travel to some distant country, it was really a difficult feature to find the food of your choice or food of your ethnic origin in that particular region. But today, when you go anywhere in the world, you have the option of selecting the food from your own country. That's the level of globalization of trade in food that is possible today. Now, when we talk of all this, if the food that happens to be your basic source of nutrition and growth and your well being and your health, if that is not controlled, or if that is not kept in the safe state, then it could lead to a very, very big concern. There could be issues wherein there will be rapid deterioration of health, which could actually overwhelm even your health infrastructures. So, these are some of the reasons why food safety plays a very, very big role. Now, what is involved when we talk of food safety also? The first and the foremost thing is that you prevent the cross contamination. The cross contamination, usually, as we all know, is from various sources. Like it could be as simple as from the raw material to the finished product, it could be from your hands into the cooked product. If you have probably the best of the foods processed on your table, but your cutlery is not clean, then there is a cross contamination, and again, the food will be rendered unsafe. Then there are other features like temperature control, the time control, personal hygiene, cleaning, pest control, maintenance of premises. Like, just think how your kitchen should be, or how your cook should be, whoever is cooking. It could be even your spouse or your mother or you yourself, how you would want to be when you're cooking. Okay. What kind of cleanliness would you like to see around you? Would you like cockroaches moving around on your cooking table at that point of time? If is it okay if the cooking table is chipped off? So look at all these features. What happens if you're using some product which needs to be chilled, and then your fridge is not actually chilling at the right temperature? So these are some of the basic features that come into play. And when I also give trainings in food safety or talk about food safety, I always ensure that people look at food safety from the point of view of the food they are having at their own place, or they are having it with their friends, family, and relatives. Because that's the beginning point of thinking about food safety, at least. Also, all of us know what happens if the food safety is not maintained, if there is poor food safety. See, first of all, as I said, if the food is not safe, it could actually lead to a mass health breakdown. Okay. And when you have a mass health breakdown, there is a concern around who will get the treatment first, because your healthcare systems could be overwhelmed. See, we have all seen something similar in COVID. Like, COVID was not something that could kill a person, but if you have some kind of a concern or a comorbidity, then it actually was burdening the healthcare system. So that's where the whole concern is. Be it anything, when you're talking about food safety, so why we talk about food safety so much, because all of us consume food. We have to do it to survive and to grow. So if the food is not safe, there is a very, very huge concern. Now, we talk about regulators, they trying to manage your food safety. Of course, they are doing their job, because today, if they do not put up compliances concerns with us, then we may actually, fall short of following everything that needs to be done to render the food safe. So that's why we have disciplinary actions. Then we have high turnover, staff turnover, poisoning, fatality could be a very big concern. Of course, if you do not maintain your food properly, you have wasted so much resources. And as on today, where we stand, we need to think of resources. Even if you're wasting 1 kg of food, please understand, you can at least feed 5 people out of it. So we cannot afford food to get wasted. Then there could be legal actions, then the compensation claims, there could be infestations, bad publicity, loss of profits. And today, as I always maintain, this is a very dear example which I speak to everybody about. Like, if you have a concern on your plate, even before the manufacturer comes to know about it, the world comes to know about it. Because that's the strength of social media today. So you want to raise your concern or highlight your issue, you may not go to the manufacturer or the processor. How many of us really look at the wrapper, or the wrapper which comes with the food, and try to look at the consumer number and the other stuff, and then try to relate them or call them up and post a complaint. Even before that, we have talked about it on Facebook and Instagram, and we have told the world that, I had this from this person, and this was the brand, and it was not good. That's the end of it. To make a brand, it takes nearly 20 to 25 years for many, but it doesn't take even a minute to spoil that brand. Now, what happens when you follow good food safety norms? Everything is good for you, right? You will have good name, you will have increased profits, your brand value will increase, good publicity, you're complying with the law, reduce food wastage, and above all, peace of mind. Any manufacturer today would want peace of mind because they have enough struggles on their head. So at least if the food is safe, they know that they will not have something from the consumer end, because then that would add some more trouble to them. So when we are talking about complying with food safety, we are also looking at adhering to many standards which are for the domestic use as well as for the international compliances. Now, why do we really look at it? Why we are talking about FSMS today? Because food safety management system just forms the basic of any food safety system. That when you're following a food safety management system, that will just give an assurance to your buyer that, okay, the food is manufactured in a place where they at least understand what food safety is all about, and they are making an effort to bring in all the food safety practices in place. And this is actually required because globally the norms are becoming more and more stringent. Today in India itself, if you really look at, we are talking about standardization of the oils that are used. See, we all know that when you the oils are being reused, the edible oils, but there is a level to which it can be reused also. You cannot keep on reusing it. So we are talking about it. Why? Because there is a health concern associated with it. So there is a norm now which says that the total polar compound in the oil has to be of a specific number. Only then, it will be considered okay to be cooked, to be used. Otherwise, you will have to discard that oil. You cannot be cooking in it anymore. So those kind of stringent safety norms are showing up. Then we spoke about globalization. There is an increasing globalization. Any of you have any idea about how much Indian foods get exported from this country every year? If you want to really know about it, just go and check out on the export import data website and look for the prepared foods. Anything, like it could be samosas, it could be parathas, it could be some dahi curd rice, bisibele bhat, or any of it, idli, medu vada. It goes out in tons. We can't even think of those numbers, and it gets exported, and it has got a demand globally. Then rising customer awareness on quality and health. How many of you really are worried about your health today? This has increased from the times when we were children, or when we were youngsters, like teenagers in college. Today, even the college going children, they look at, okay, does it have enough salad on this, so that you're not eating too many fried stuff. So they are conscious about their health. They know that they want better food. They are also conscious about the quality. So you see, there is a growing trend. I remember when we were teenagers, for us, the street foods used to be our liking, because of course, see, we did not have too much of pocket money then. That was one of the stories, but the street foods were always very attractive. But today, if you look at the teenagers, they will hang around in the quick service restaurants that have shown up. Okay. Though we keep on struggling and we keep on saying that they have got high fat, high salt, high sugars, but still, they personally feel that the quality of those foods is good. They may be considered junk, but they are good. So that's the level of awareness that has grown among people. Okay. And there's a shift from the street food to the quick service restaurants, and then to the restaurants and fine dining and so on and so forth. So, what does ISO 22000 do? See, ISO 22000, if you really look at the standard really talks about addressing everyone in the food chain. Okay. So, what does it do? It talks about your stakeholder relationships. Now, this is a very, very critical feature. Like when a manufacturer is manufacturing the food and selling it out, he has to understand that his suppliers are playing a big role. His service providers are playing a big role. His customer is playing a big role. Then his consumer is playing a role. Okay. So there are so many people involved. Now consider there is a concern. So many of them have got impacted. And also there is somebody called as an investor who has a big role to play. So many of them get impacted. When you're actually exporting a product and your product fails in the international market, there's a very high possibility that your country gets blacklisted for that product. So, can you see the level of concerns that can show up in case there is an unsafe food? So, what does 22,000 do? It improves the stakeholder relationship. It makes it more transparent. It calls for people to communicate among their stakeholders, so that if there is a concern, it can be brought out into the open and can be resolved before the food moves out to the consumer. It enhances business to get global recognition. See, globally, everything is being mapped today. So people are looking at how some country is contributing to some other country, or how some state is contributing to some other state. Okay. This is a very big issue today, because there is a growing demand. The demand is only growing. And why is it growing? Because there are changes in the way people are looking at the food. More and more women are working today. Mankind grew with the feature that men will work and women will be at home to look at the needs of the family. But today, the increase in requirement of lifestyle and other things have uh, required women to step out and work, and definitely some part of their home cores are getting, they need support. So who is providing that support? This foods, different convenience foods that are available, is providing that support today. So that's why it is getting mapped and it is required globally. Then builds the ability to win more customers in the food chain process that improve the growth of the organization. So definitely, do you think you can survive without a customer? Or is it okay for you to survive with just one customer for your lifetime? You will need to go on increasing. Then adhere to local legal compliances from customers and stakeholders, thereby minimizing the risk. Now, everywhere, even your customer may want to put up some things that they need in addition to the regulatory compliances. So, ISO 22000 food safety management system addresses it, says that, okay, look at how you are going to comply to this requirement. How are you going to meet your customer's need? Let's look at it. And enables your organization to demonstrate the commitment and competence to manage the hazards, thereby controlling the risks. Now, See, always it is not necessary that you will need a food technologist or a microbiologist in your factory. Competence can be raised by virtue of many processes. It could be by qualification, it could be by experience, it could be by training, it could be by gathering skills, it could be by gathering knowledge. So you will need to define in which area of food chain you are in and what kind of competence you need to control the food safety hazards in your processes. We are all aware of this plan to check act. Okay, plan to check act is a very very dear phenomena, and uh, especially if you use it, it acts like a wonder. Okay, so when we talk of ISO 22000 standard, in the planning state, it talks about really addressing the organization as a whole, where it starts with the purpose and the mission and the vision of the organization. That's the context of your organization with respect to your positioning in the food chain, in your positioning in the society. Okay, then is your leadership, how you lead the organization, what are your plans, what are your objectives, how do you frame your policies, then what do you do with your resources, how do you place your resources in place, what is the infrastructure support you give, how is the work environment maintained, and then what kind of external support you can give them so that they can do their work properly. So in the planning state, it has been very widely addressed that you look at the basics first. And there is a big reason why they have put up so many things in planning. There is a saying that the better your planning is, the lesser is the bloodshed in the battlefield. So what does planning really mean? Planning really means that you strategize your work very well, so that when you're executing it, you do not make a lot of mistakes. And even if you make a mistake, you can resolve it immediately. Then the next comes your doing. Doing is your operation, wherein you need to really act on everything that has been planned, doing it. Then check, that is your verification system, your internal audits, PRP verifications. You keep seeing, okay, whatever I had planned, is it happening that way? Is there a deviation? If there's a deviation, what's the level of concern that is showing up? Is it safe? Can it be moved into the consumer? Can it be forwarded into the chain? All this is a check mechanism, and this check mechanism definitely brings out your opportunities for improvement. None of the organizations in the world today can say that I am done with all my planning and all my doing and I don't need a check further. You need it. Why? Because every one of us are working in a very very dynamic system. If we have to really just put down on paper who are the major influencers of our business, you will see so many of them. It could be your social structures, it could be your politics in the country, it could be your economy, it could be so many things. And that's why this check mechanism brings in place the considerations that you need to take at that moment to take further actions. And actions are all your improvements, all your, if you have a non-conformity, how do you correct it, what are the actions you plan from it so that it does not recur again, and then you see an improvement in your system. Now, one belief that I have and which I have seen happening is, whenever an organization has chosen to follow this PDCA cycle, they have actually improved with tangible results. That is, they have increased their profits, they have reduced their wastages, they have enhanced the competencies of the people. That is, the people have become more competent to handle bigger jobs. So there are organizations who needed maybe 30 people earlier. Now they can do with 25 because the performance of the people enhanced. So thereby leading to profits. So you have tangible results when you really follow this plan to check act mechanism. Now this is a complete ISO 22000 defined on how to do the plan, do, check, act. And you can see that there are two levels. Why are the two levels there? Because within planning also they have said what is required, and when you are actually handling your operations, what is required and why it is required. See, handling operations cannot happen just overnight. You need a lot of work around it. When you have done the major planning of how the organization will function, how your food safety will function, within that, when you come to actual operations, you will have to plan what are your prerequisite programs. How are you going to trace your product from the raw material to the raw material, and how will you ensure that your product is safe when it reaches the consumer? What will you do when if there is any emergency? And emergencies can be there. You know, just a week ago, I guess, uh, there was a power outage for about 8 hours in a few countries close to Russia. How they must have managed their food systems? Can you just imagine? A power outage for about 8 hours is not a small thing, and it calls for an emergency. And they did not know about it that there's going to be a power outage. So what do you do in such situations? You consider all of them and then do your hazard analysis. What is that hazard analysis? That is, you check what are the different kinds of hazards that could be present in your product, right from your raw material to the processes to the finished product. And you go on seeing which process actually reduces your hazard to an acceptable level where it can be rendered safe. How do you identify that your control measures are going to be good enough to control that hazard? So you prepare a hazard control plan. This hazard control plan is a plan which says what are the different things you need to do, when you need to do, why you need to do, how you need to do, who will do it. So why when you answer such questions, you realize that it's a big job. And then you put up your verification plan, because anything that you do needs to be seen whether it is going as per your plan or not. And then you do your implementation, you work it out, and you say, oh wow, that's working, that's good, because you did a great planning. Please understand, it will work only if you have a great plan. And then you check whether all the devices and the equipments that you use, people you use, they are actually capable of rendering the job. You control all your products, all your process non-conformances. And the more you identify them, like, make your people more competent to identify the concerns, because the more they identify the concerns, the more resolution they will bring in, and your system will become robust. Then you have your check phenomena, wherein you do a verification activity and analyze all your results, and you say, okay, these are the improvement steps that I need to take. Okay. I was doing this process at this temperature earlier, but yes, still my TPC is a little higher. So let me look at a different temperature and work it out. So you run a test again, you run a study again to see what can be better, how it can be done better. Okay. And then you update all your preliminary information. Most of us, like especially in the food safety system, what happens is, I take this opportunity to say this here because you have to first want the food safety system. Only then it can happen. Because if you say that the food safety system is needed by the regulator or my customer, it will never happen. You will be doing it just to satisfy them. Do it for your own self. If you want tangible results, if you want profits, if you want to grow, if you want to reduce your wastage, if you want your people to grow, if you want your people to be competent, do it for your own self. Do it yourself. Maybe take the support of the consultant, but let the consultant deliver what you want. Okay. Not not you deliver what the consultant wants. You need to do it this way. Only then will your food safety system be a robust system which will ensure that you keep on identifying improvements year on year, not just when you're certified. Okay, it's for you. Certification is something else. Certification is just to say that yes, you did it. But you will also feel good when you get certified for something that you really, you know, worked on, where you gave your best and you got certified, right? So now this is just a overview, okay, where you see that what ISO 22000, this FSMS um, plan to check act actually talks about, how it can be actually brought into the system. What are the major considerations when you are actually looking at the food safety? You have to first think where you are in the chain and what are the risks associated with your foods. If you say that yes, my food is actually by itself very safe, then you will actually take lesser care, and you may think that okay, if I take these steps it's enough for me. But then there could be some processes which will need a lot of more care. So there, all this will play a big role. What process you're adopting, what service you're giving your your consumer, what or service are you giving your customer. In the frozen food industry, many of the brands actually place their own freezers. Why do they do it? So that they know that at least the retailer or the distributor is going to use this properly, and he will keep the product safe. Many of them actually have got even the alert systems in it. They have got sensors such that if the freezer temperature rises, they will get an alert. Why they are doing it? They are ensuring that the safe food reaches the consumer. And this is needed because, even consumers for that matter take on complaints right, left, and center. Many a times it's their mistake too. I'll give you a very simple example. Uh, in our complex, there were some suppliers who were giving, frozen vegetables. So somebody ordered frozen green peas. Now, it's very clear when they buy the green peas, frozen green peas, that you have to place it in your freezer immediately. Because if it is thawed, then definitely the green peas actually loses its attribute to some extent. And moreover, the clumping happens. Now, what happened is that this lady who ordered green peas, she was probably not at home, or she kept it outside, whatever was there. And next day, she sent a complaint across saying that the green peas has turned yellow and everything is clumped. Okay, obviously, like when green peas is the frozen green peas are individually quick frozen products. So if you leave them out, they get thawed, and when you freeze them back, they will get clumped together. Now, why did they turn yellow? That is because they must have been left out for a very, very long time. But what really happened? The retailer had to take it back. Why? Because at the end of the day, there was no way that he could tell the consumer or the buyer that it was actually your mistake. So what are the brands doing today? They are giving their freezers to people, to the retailers. They are ensuring that the products in transit or reaching the consumer, that time is the least, so that the product does not lose the temperature. To a great extent, many of the retailers, they are actually supplying the frozen foods in polar bags which will retain the temperature. So this kind of care is being taken. So this is all because the food safety management system asks for it. Why? Because they are saying that when the product reaches the consumer and the consumer consumes it the way instructed, it should not cause any harm or illness to the consumer. So this is exactly why the food safety system takes into consideration all of it. This is a very simple example of a food safety management system plan. How you do it. You first identify the process step, you identify your hazards, you say at what temperature or what critical limit time temperature you want it to be done. Then you say what are your monitoring procedures, at what frequency you will do it, what is your control measure, if at all there is a deviation, what corrective action you will take, what records you will keep, and who's the responsible person. Can you all see whoever of you are actually practicing food safety management system by consulting, or you're a manufacturer, or you're an auditor? This particular plan actually addresses everything that is needed in a food safety management system plan, and it is quite robust in that it says that okay, who is doing what, why he's doing it, how he's doing it, at what frequency he's doing it, everything. So that when the verification happens, in the verification stage, what does one need to see? Whether all of these happened the way they were meant to be done. That's as simple as a verification process. In the verification process, you don't need to go on telling, no, this could have been done, or it's not there in the plan. So if it is not there in the plan, you need not say that. Yes, if you say that, see that there is a deviation from this plan, definitely put it up. Or if you have a better suggestion, it's your own organization, bring it out to the food safety team, let them evaluate. They can evaluate and say, okay, we can adopt it, we cannot adopt it, what additional resources we may need, everything of it. Okay. So this is basically the food safety management system altogether put up here. And these are the different clauses of the standards in one slide, so that all of you can just uh, look at the pointers and think what needs to be done in them. Okay. So food safety management system by itself is a course, and many of you can actually enroll for the internal auditor courses or the lead auditor courses that is being done for FSMS through ICS. So it's a very good course. So thank you so much, all of you. um Jarna, I think I exceeded the time limit. I'm very sorry for this. Um,
No,
but
ma'am.
No problem, ma'am.
but then yes, this topic is actually a little big, and it actually calls for a lot of understanding and information sharing. So thank you so much. That's it from my end right now.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking time from your busy schedule to be the key speaker for today's webinar.
Thank
All
you.
thanks to your enlightening words and presentation and sharing your experiences. It's been always a pleasure listening to you. We move ahead with the panel discussion. Our panelists are Dr. Sundar Kataria, Mrs. Krishna Datta, Mr. Sumit Saxena, Mr. Yogesh Chandekar. Please put in your questions in the chat box, which shall be taken up during the panel discussion. A brief introduction of Mr. Sumit Saxena. He is the head of Global Operations Maven Quality Assurance Council. He's done his BTech honors in food technology, diploma in anti-bribery. His area of specialization and experience includes lifetime member of Association of Food Scientists and Technologists India. He's done his master trainer for FOSTAC. He's a lead auditor in food safety management systems. He's certified as a food safety professional by Chartered Institute of Environmental Health UK. He's certified cleaning professional by British Institute of Cleaning Sciences UK. He's been awarded by Uninox Labs on contribution to food safety on the entire industry in Pan India Survey of Organizations, Individuals, and NPOs in June 2017. He has been awarded Hospitality Training of the Year by Indian Hospitality Dubai in November 2021. Please welcome Mr. Sumit Saxena. A brief introduction of Mr. Yogesh Chandekar. He is the General Manager Certification at International Certification Services Private Limited. He's done his BE Mechanical, Diploma in Business Management, and Advanced Diploma in Industrial Safety. His area of specialization includes Management System Certification, Third Party Inspection, and Plant Safety Audits. Please put your hands for Mr. Yogesh Chandekar. Over to you, Mr. Chandekar, for panel discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Krishna, ma'am. You have taken us through the FSMS standard requirements, then the risk and the safety, hygiene, why it is required. So it was a very elementary or preliminary to understand what exactly the food safety, why it is required, how to get the food safety management system in place, and how to maintain it. So it was nice since we have almost 8 to 9 sessions, but this session was also something we got something to learn or enhanced our knowledge on food safety more what we had earlier also.
Thank
Now
you.
to start with Mr. Saxena, if new entrepreneur, if he wants to have this FSMS in place, so either he could start with the FSMS requirements in mind, taking those in mind, right, to establish his organization, the plan or layout of the factory, and what are the other requirements. And the one who is already had, they opened his business, he is there, he has good brand name, and if he wants to go for the FSMS, so what could be the basic difference between the implementation or for the FSMS requirements point of view, how to go about the FSMS certification for in these two cases?
All right. A very good morning to all of you. Firstly, Dr. Kataria, thanks a lot for having me here. Krishna, hi. It's been a long
Hi,
time.
it's really a long time.
It's so
Good
lovely to
we
see
meet
you.
again.
Yes. Probably it should be better platform next time. I
Sure.
we can meet teachers and discuss a lot of things which are due here to be
Definitely.
discussed.
Sure.
Dr. Chandekar, it's a very important point here. And as we always see in any kind of a management standard structure, they always talk about beginning from establishment and then to implementation. Um, the concern, the challenge comes in from the fact that the moment you are implementing an FSMS, uh, as Dr. Datta also mentioned about certification being a very different process, it's just an over validation of your own processes, which you actually want to inculcate for your stakeholders and your consumers, right? The point here is that many a times the facility which is being used to to produce or to serve, retail, offer, distribute the products that are under your brand name or your company, they are sometimes managed by the company which is running its function and owned by someone else. All right, that is one factor. The other factor is that many a times you, as Krishna also mentioned about a consultant being hired, which is going to work for a certain scope of work within a timeline. The third factor is that you have initiated or commenced your processes, your functions, your operations at a certain time, in the past, where theories and principles were different and the mindset of people was different. And then you choose to start getting, you're planning to implement and get certified for FSMS at a certain stage where you have new minds, new thoughts, and certainly regulatory requirements are different, and even the standards also revise and change themselves. Now, the question that you have actually put up, Yogesh, actually has two parts to it. One, when you want to implement, and the other one is when you want to get certified. The interests in both, the objectives in both would be slightly different. If you plan to get certified, there are certain modifications that you can do to your processes, and there will always be this a rendezvous that, okay, fine, this clause says something like this is written between the lines, and it will always say subject to your operations. So if it says that I need to reduce the time of my transfer of temperature controlled deliveries in reaching this respective storage areas, and I have my stores on, let's say, the third floor using an elevator, then I am doing my best. I'm taking 15 minutes to 20 minutes to do that, and that should be making my product safe, or safer than the hazard that could have been. So this is the kind of modification or tweaking that you do in your processes when you intend to get certified with the requirements, which could be, let's say, a little more than what you started your operations with. This is one thing. Secondly, you asked about the ideal process time or a stepwise flow process for getting implemented if you already are operating on a site. When somebody asks me about when is the right time to get you start working on FSMS, I would say that 80% of the plant being laid down. So that is the best time to start for implementation. because that is when you know that what are your errors in the planning, or what is the building going to create obstacles for you in your operations. So it's not that you will have to bring the building down, but you can design your operations in a way that are going to be safer for the consumer. If you are already operating, my suggestion in this case is, see, we know the challenges, we know the concerns. When it is your building, there is certainly another challenge. But when you are managing some owner's building, then there will also be a set of challenges. All right. We do get requests as auditors, sir, this point you please put, because my owner will not otherwise give me, that permission or allowance to work on this. So the point here is that when you are intending to get certified or implement a particular standard with its particular current revision, we must work on the base level of challenges. My first question, if I am a consultant on this implementation support, my first question will be, before anything else, you just list down all your challenges in operation that you're facing today. Then it will be my job to provide the expertise, as per the requirements of the law, the regulations, and the standard. So how to match it to make the consumer safety the biggest priority. And one more thing, Yogesh, in this case is that, when you are looking at the clauses of a particular standard, they may talk majorly, 80% of them will be talking about starting from the planning stage, but about the operations. What they fail to realize that operationally, any process has to undergo a wall, floor, ceiling. All right. And even if you are doing something, you are standing in an enclosure. So the enclosure is the first thing that you will have to look into, because your process variables and the impacting variables are going to be affected by the kind of building you have. So first, the infrastructural modifications, and then the process changes that you may have to do. And thirdly, and the most importantly, what they fail to understand when they are, implementing halfway of their life cycle of a business, is the external party effect. Okay, which generally changes after a course of time since you have begun. These 3 points, Yogesh, and then certainly you can work on the GMPs and GHPs and GPPs.
Thank you, sir. Nicely explained. And this will also, that means whenever any challenge, if you go for the FSMS, the existing, they may feel challenge about the process flow, the material flow and all that. But to solve, as you said, certain modifications on rerouting can help them out to really meet the requirements and maintain the food and safety. My next question is to Dr. Kataria. Dr. Kataria, since you are auditor, there is one term called the scope and boundaries. So if a manufacturer gets the FSMS certified, so is it really responsibility, or he should have the process in place as per the FSMS requirement for the product which is being transported and at the retailers, stored at retailers for further distribution, because the brand name is associated of the manufacturer. So in that case, what is really about the scope and boundaries of the FSMS for a manufacturing organization? Sir, you are muted. I think, sir, you are muted.
Yeah, very good morning,
yes,
and thank you, Yogesh. I think your question carries a lot of sub questions. These are very tricky questions. So I'll come up with some example, live example, so that everybody knows. First of all, my compliments to Krishna Datta and Saksanaji. It is really, I appreciate your passion for the food safety and your hand-on knowledge in this knowledge which you have gathered in last so many years of involvement and really proactive action taking, and your communication with not only consultant, the authorities, with the manufacturer, and every type of industries you have been dealing with. Thank you.
So you were the one who gave me the opportunity.
Okay.
And
No,
I always maintain it.
that is your passion. and you keep updated with the technology and the management. That is the best part of it. And we are very much thankful to you and joining us with increasing the awareness in the country, in the nation. That is our duty to do it. Thank you very much. Well, question about the boundary and where they have to. I think Krishna Datta has really explained in detail. Even Saxena Sabha also has given in detail that there are a lot of involvement, right, from manufacturers, supplier, services, consumers, stakeholders, even authorities and everybody. So you have to look into account. Now, one very case which came to our knowledge, the person from India, he opened an office in somewhere in Middle East. And then he wanted that we to certify him. But he didn't wanted to invest. Plus he didn't have consultant. Now he was asking what should be our boundary. He says, I don't want to spend on infrastructure. जैसे आपने बोला this successness आपसे, infrastructure is very much required.
Correct.
The building is required. What he wanted to do, import from India in a containers, and then he doesn't want to bring it to this building, yard or anybody. He didn't have.
Okay.
And he wanted at the this port side, he will keep it, draw the sample, whatever tests are required, he will do it, and then sell it from there itself. So we told we cannot do it. Apart from that, he had a license only, he didn't have a license also.
Okay.
He had only registered his office there. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
With little manpower, everything we wanted to do from India and get certificate. Now, how we can do it without building, without infrastructure, without people, without HSCC managers? So the planning part plays very important. And consultants who are there, they play a very important role, very, very important role. Your infrastructure must, your this manpower, competent manpower is must. And as per the specific requirement of the country, the Food Act, or whatever standard you are following, international or national standards. So you have to take into account everything and then plan it. And Krishna Datta has given very nice how to do the planning and all, starting with the hazard analysis and then going to nitty-gritty of the things. And the planning part plays very important. We have to follow the PDCA cycle, and that is a very good, simple payment cycle we use, and really one can improve. And then if your plan is robust, the thing will go very smooth. If your planning is not there, plus you have to have a consultant. These are traders who come into business without any experience, but they see a lot of money. They will see, as she has told, export, he will see how much rice is being exported from India. So he's jumping to it without planning. So that's what I say, boundary is most important when we are starting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I would
Thank
just
you,
like to add a little more to this. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Considering the present scenario and the need for the products. Okay. Like, for example, even my organization, we do a job work for the brand. Okay? Not many brands have their own factories. Let's be straight about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is usually manufactured in many organizations like mine, where we are the manufacturers. And even if you look at the licensing, they will have the license of a repacker and a relabeler.
Oh,
Right. Yeah, that's how the brands function in most of the cases. Now, when we heard the example that Sir just gave, okay, there are very big concerns there if you certify. Because just having an office doesn't make them eligible to do everything. And had you certified, he would be a trader, no problem. But what did you really see in him that you certified him? Because there are too many things that need to be addressed. And especially in India, the licensing for traders is very simple, but that's not the same abroad. They are equally liable for a concern that
Yes,
happens there.
yes.
And that liability could be very big, and the traceability there will bring it back to the manufacturer where it has been manufactured. So
Very true.
these are some of the basic features that you should understand when you are actually evaluating the scope and boundaries. That's why if you really look at ISO 22003, which talks about the way the certification body should function, everything is actually identified very critically. The contract review person competence, why is it needed?
Exactly.
you know See, this is in fact, I really appreciate the effort of the people who are making the standards, because they are really thinking to a very great level. You end up making some contract review, and you end up certifying somebody, and then they mess up, and you do not know where to go. So it's to safeguard every person in the chain. Like, certification body is a very, very big stakeholder in this.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
certification body cannot
Yes,
afford to
agree.
really get messed up in
Uh,
this. That's why the contract review person has to do his job properly. The auditors
right.
have to do their job properly. The reviewer has to do their job properly. And
Yes,
Plus,
right.
finally, who signs the certificate? Oh my God.
correct. Now, Krishna Datta, I'll add on the boundary,
Yes,
like we
sir.
have certified one of the organization, which is
Huh.
almost 60,000 square feet
Ah,
of place, very
okay.
huge. And then
Great.
he says, I don't want my logistic to be
Arre baap re.
taken into ISO 22,000. How
Hmm.
we can accept such thing?
Yeah, so there you have to do that
And
risk assessment. How
yeah,
much is that logistics supporting this
and
whole function?
when is 60,000, they had dry, they had food, which is frozen food, and
Ah,
all kind of things were there.
correct, correct.
Huge yards,
Right,
and you can understand. And
correct,
almost 200 people working there. Even there were about 30, 40 drivers,
correct.
50 vehicles.
Yeah.
How we can avoid? We told we cannot do, you have to. Okay. And finally he agreed, and then he
Hmm.
carried out the. So
Yes,
this a boundary is very important. Our auditor
absolutely.
has to be smart. He
Correct.
should say, no, we cannot do.
And it's
Thank you.
only by doing all this we can bring the systems.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
You're right.
Or else we'll be just in the rut. सब लोग कर रहे हैं,
Especially,
हम भी कर रहे हैं. नहीं.
yeah, yeah.
We have to be
Especially
way beyond.
as you told, India export is rising very
Oh,
on the fast curve, matlab sharp curve.
yes, yes.
So, and you can see the government is also waking up, like FSSI, they are taking more people to cope up with the work.
Correct.
And so things are moving right direction. Let's
Absolutely.
hope for the good.
I think our delay in the enforcement of the FSS Act,
Right.
delay in the sense, I mean, it comes after we had the BRC, the latest version with us, supporting us for implementation. I mean, having such advanced levels of international standards, and then we have the enforcement of the base minimum structure, was somewhere where those companies got hit, which were big companies, big production houses, but were not certified. For them, the bare minimum journey just started. So I'll tell you, you will notice this. You must have seen in the biggest of dairies on the highways, biggest of
Hmm.
them. I'll not name them, you'll know yourself. Will have a parlor outside.
Correct.
Yeah.
Retail
If you
outlet.
Yes, yes.
if you check the
Yes.
licenses will only for dairy business,
Correct.
not
Oh.
covering the retail part. So this point, Dr. Yogesh, is very important, the scope and boundary that we have picked up. And one feature that we always fight for is what Dr. Kataria just mentioned, logistics and transport.
Yes.
Whatever
Nobody
is
feels it's a
convenient for
part.
you, Krishna, you will keep your scope till there.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
from there.
Exactly. And nobody wants to get out of that comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So see, basically, when you want to implement a system, maybe not even food safety, anything, give some thinking to it first. Why? Why are you
Actually.
doing it? If that why is answered appropriately, rest of the journey is easy.
Absolutely.
But that
How
why
comes
becomes,
later?
Huh.
Exactly. How comes much later? I
No,
mean,
but if that why is the customer's requirement, you're done. Finished. It's
Yes.
over.
and then you will be very diligent and religious
Yeah.
about the fact and the operations.
Correct.
Yes. So yes, Dr.
That's
Chandrakar, I think we over
Yeah.
explained the question.
No, no, but next question is to ma'am, Krishna ma'am. Uh, for a new entrepreneur who has not yet started, so are there any readily available standard practices, manufacturing practices, or the standard risk assessment for a particular product? If I want to have one product and similar product somebody is making already, or the CCPs or the PRPs and OPRPs, are they readily available on Google search, or individual has to put their own brain and get their own specific SAP? How it is? What you feel about it?
see, if you really look at the Google will give you answers for everything right now. Okay.
Yeah.
But there is one simple thing. You may try to pick up the CCPs or the OPRPs or the PRPs from somewhere. But as an entrepreneur, it is very important. When you're saying an entrepreneur, okay, you have the right people in the right place first. If that entrepreneur really thinks of having a competent food technologist or a microbiologist or somebody with that particular understanding of the product, then he will not have to look at Google to do something. They can do it themselves. It's very simple. It's not some rocket science. Okay, food safety management is not rocket science. It's very simple. It's very common thinking first. First think common. First think, okay, do I have the four walls and a ceiling and a floor? First, start with that. Next, think, okay, is there a sufficient drainage? Look at the product, what the product is. Is it a dry product? It is a wet product? It is an ambient shelf life product? It is a frozen product? It is a dry, whatever it is. Like, look at all those answers, okay? Making a food safety plan comes much later now. First is the basic. Look at what your raw material is going to be. How are you going to function? Who is your customer? Where is it going? How is it going? Is it going directly to the consumer, or is it going through a distributor to a retailer and then to the consumer? See, when the entrepreneur answers all these questions, he will get a fair idea what he needs to do. Then he will search appropriately on Google also. Because if you start throwing up questions to Google, Google will keep answering. But you will not know whether that answer is useful for you or
Correct,
not.
correct. Yes.
So you
Yes.
have to first do your homework. And every entrepreneur, like even I'm an entrepreneur, maybe I've not succeeded yet, but it's still my journey, and it's still the same. Okay. I first find my own questions and then look for answers. Or else the Google will take you all around the place
Yes.
and you
So
will know
that
everything under the sun.
then he should aware of what exactly he want to do, and
Correct.
appropriately he should select or
Exactly.
combine whatever suits to him.
Correct.
So that is very important.
Yes. Your
My
want is
next,
very important. What is your want?
yes, yes, yes. My next question is to Dr. Mr. Sumit Saxena. If any organization, if they are having the QMS in place, maybe taken earlier, gone for the management system earlier, so can it be integrated with FSMS or any other standard? Can it be integrated FSMS, and how the documentation from record point of view or any operational point of view, any impact on if we integrate other standard with FSMS?
Um, I think FSMS by itself has its own individuality. And this question does come to us. And to be very precise and specific on this, Yogesh, the HLS structure with the revision of ISO 22000, I think it includes whatever you require from QMS. And basically, if you look at the regulatory requirement for any food business, quality cannot be kept out of the requirements of the consumer. All right. So firstly, the product's quality has to be met. The product's quality has to be met as per the regulations also.
Sir, you are
You're
muted.
mute.
Sir, you are muted. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Was I muted for the entire answer or?
No.
Okay,
Some
okay,
part,
all
yeah.
right.
Some part.
Yogesh is very scared. I should start speaking all over again.
No. Very few parts.
All
One or
right.
two
So the
sentences.
thing is that QMS is very well integrated within FSMS. As a process, you whatever quality you want in your processes, the way you want to improvise is all provided in the revision of ISO 2018 version. So I don't think you need to even think about that extra work. One. Secondly, if you're talking about the quality of the product or the service, if you're talking about product, then certainly the FSSAI requirements, which have to be met even for FSMS implementation, will even otherwise be taken care of, because you cannot provide a safe food which is not of good quality as per FSSAI also. If you're talking about service or operations like logistics and transport, that will be automatically covered in the HLS QMS part of FSMS. So if you ask as a point here, I do not think that you need to integrate anything into FSMS. If somebody is already QMS certified and they want to get FSMS certification, I suggest they transit, then integrate. Krishna would correct me if I'm wrong here. And yes, if you're talking about integrating QMS with OSHAs and EMS, then that could be certainly a level, a requirement. In this, I think it will be too short a time for me to mention what all records you can develop or something for IMS, and for IMS basically, that will be, I think, not more than 20% of them will be common. For OSHAs and EMS, there will be certainly a separate documentation that you will require, at least for 75%. If you're talking about QMS and FSMS, I think you will not have to revamp any existing documentation, but add on to a little more record keeping as required by the standard. And certainly the document, if we all understand the difference between a document and a record, the document can certainly, remain the same, because what you are doing and what is the entity of that organization probably will not change. It's the same. But all those have to be reviewed, certainly, Yogesh. The content of the record keeping that you have designed will certainly change. Why? Because in QMS, your objective was quality operations and quality product. But when it comes to FSMS, your objective will completely change to consumer safety, traceability, ease of recall, and things like that, which are a little more to discuss right now. So for record keeping, certainly you will have to capture more and more variables and data. So record keeping should completely be changed and reviewed with external support and help. Right? That's my take on it.
Dr. Kadar, do you want to throw some light on this
Sure.
integration of? Yeah. Please, sir.
Of course, this as Saxena Saab has told, that is quality aspect has to be taken care. That is already there in place. Now, additional as a food safety, Ms. Krishna will agree with me, because this is based on HACCP. The hazard and critical control point is the additional requirement. So QMS, you are covering it, aspect of quality, risk and opportunity. So that is different than the HACCP. Apart from that, we also have QMS. There are some SOPs for the process controls, operation controls. But here it is more rigid requirement comes on PRP, OPRP, control of CCPs. All this is additional, which is, as Saxena said, you require to have those controls, monitoring, and the documentation, records, documented information, which plays very critical part in when you are integrating both the system. But the management function, like internal audit, your MRM, objective, policies, again, policy has to be upgraded to the food safety policy. Objective has to be related to the food safety. So there is almost 40%, 50% more is required when you are integrating with food safety management system. That's what I can say. Because of time available, we cannot more elaborate. But in
Yes,
just
yes.
I can say, unless Krishna wants to add few more things, especially on the competence of people and testing of the product.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
as I always say, competence definitely is required when we are talking about food safety management system. Some competence around, how to render it safe and how to address its attribute will be needed. Testing, of course, as per the regulatory requirements right now, the testing part is very well handled. Uh, I think for a small business, getting testing done from an external lab is a good option. But I will always maintain that we are still talking about just implementing the schedule 4 as per the FSSAI. But that does not assure safe food. It only gives you a sense of
Quality.
clean, clean and hygienic environment. That's it. Nothing more than that. Assurance of safe food is very, very critical, which probably has to be understood very well. So I also personally think at times, like, if we could form some sort of a consortium where, we could actually render this work to the small businesses so that at least
Yeah.
they give assured food, safe, assured food to people. So I do a lot of work with maybe pani puri walas because I love pani puri. So I keep searching, ki what new things can be done for them. So I was in Gujarat some time back, and I saw that there was a pani puri wala who had about four or five glass jars with tap for the water. So that's a safe method. He's not dipping his hand at least in the
Right.
Yeah.
in that water, because that water is actually pretty um, risky. First is the source of water is not known. Then he dipping his hand again and again into it. He's adding more microbes to it over a period. So at least some point of something they are doing. So if we can actually, support it, we can do something that would have a lot of benefit for the community as a whole also. That's
Yes,
needed
ma'am.
because this is something that we will need to do if we want to really see India as a growing food market.
Yeah. I
The
think
Yes,
the
potential is
progress
very
is
high.
directly proportional to Pani Puri safety, Krishna.
yes, yes.
You can I stay in Mumbai. So, here 60% people actually survive on street foods.
Yeah,
Foods.
yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
that's right.
That's
So,
true. That's true.
if you don't make the street food safe, what are you trying to do?
Exactly.
60% people are actually at risk. Can we beat it?
But on the pav bhaji,
Hmm.
the bhaji is cooked so well,
I know.
you will not.
There may be no nutrition in it, but it will be safe.
Safe.
Except your bread part which you use.
Oh my
Now, where
God.
from it comes is the source is again very
Oh,
important because he doesn't have his own bakery, so he is buying from outside. So, as you say, one has to see what is involved,
correct.
what is the process, what is the operation controls is taking place. That's
Absolutely.
most
Um, Krishna, don't you think that we should have begun our mandatory third-party audits with the street foods and the suppliers of the street foods more than the five-star hotels and the businesses which are
Absolutely.
getting more than 20 crores of profit?
Correct. In fact,
Anyways, I think that's a sorry, Doctor Yogesh Chandrakant. I think we are.
yesterday I was
Haha.
in Juhu Beach, okay, with my
Okay.
family.
okay.
After a long, long time. I mean, I may have gone there after 2, 3 years. And I was just wondering, I spoke to those guys because it was attracting me so much. I asked them, what is happening here? So they said, we have 80 stalls here right now. We pay about a lakh rupees rent. I said, what is the status of your food safety licensing? तो बोले, हाँ एक मैडम आई थी और
Hmm.
उसने फिर बोला हमारे किसी के पास लाइसेंस नहीं है तो फिर बाद में कोई आया दौड़ दौड़ के और लाइसेंस दे गया
Oh,
and
Wow.
I know that story
okay.
also. Okay, that story is also known to me. And then I
Hmm.
said, at least we can start with HRA ratings for them, if not
Correct.
anything. They'll get something
Yes.
that third party audit HRA ratings with them. that is a very, very critical thing. अरे होटल तो बेचारा कर ही रहा है जो करना है उसको.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, जो dhabas and quick service restaurants जो छोटे छोटे हैं ना आजकल. And nowadays, the quick service restaurants, they grow in bulk. There is
Yes,
something
yes.
called as rock
Yes,
and
yes.
roll, and suddenly you see 100 outlets of rock and roll. कहाँ से हो जाता है पता नहीं चलता, बट हो जाता है. किसी को पता नहीं है वो टॉटिया कहाँ से आ रहा है, वो सब कहाँ से सोर्स हो रहा है, कुछ नहीं पता,
Correct.
बट हो
But
रहा है. And we all are
actually, this point has come up, Yogesh. I think this has a very close link to our session and your question. I'll tell you why. Maximum, you will in Mumbai, you see, in Delhi, in Jaipur also, we see that the maximum number of retail outlets that open up after 3 years, any business sees a break even. All right.
Yeah.
Dilip ji is right there. He will correct me if I'm wrong, Dilip ji. Any business needs to have a break even around, not before 3 years, right?
correct.
In 2 years, you see all of them shut.
True.
You see so many outlets that open up as a restaurant, as a franchisee, and then they shut. Why? Because today's topic, there is no planning.
No planning.
There is no planning for consumer attraction, for consumer safety, regulatory management of regulatory standards, and then they just all shut up because they, whatever, at the end of 2 years, they realize that the amount that they spent on the consumables for hygiene and safety or licensing was never budgeted.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yes, I think
It's not only this, even the MSME survey says 67% small scale industries have shut down.
yes,
That's
yeah,
because nobody has got the quality
Correct.
consciousness around it.
Yeah.
They don't
absolutely.
want to
Food
invest
is
in quality.
Krishna, food is such an easy target today. Somebody
Simple.
wants, if you look at some business family and they, if you just throw in an idea, okay, you need to do some new
हाँ.
business, the first thing that they
First
will
thing
think,
that-
which food में
Yes.
कुछ करते हैं,
करते हैं. Correct.
Yes.
है ना?
सिर्फ इतना ही नहीं, आपका घर अगर ग्राउंड फ्लोर पे है ना, you will do anything. वो
Yes.
Swiggy, Zomato, Dunzo, everyone is available right now.
Yes.
That home chefs has come up big way. But
Right.
how many are successful? And how many really know the regulatory aspect around it?
Exactly.
Yeah. What about nowadays, there is a lot of trend of number of coffee shop. Almost every 200, 300 meters, you find one coffee shop.
Correct.
Very nicely. But what about that product quality and product hygiene and safety? Of course, they
Dr.
look very nice.
Dr. Kataria, in 2014, there was a little survey done because the state government that time, they said that they passed, it was a mandate basically that nobody in banquets will be wasting food. So if you want to waste food, either you will be penalized on it or they gave numbers also, people will collect that food and give away. With that survey, there were some intelligent students, probably interns, they did a survey to find out the amount of, everybody knows Delhi staples, butter chicken, masala, butter paneer and things like that. So the dairy which is being used in these during the season of weddings and banquets in Delhi NCR, and the footfall of the people, the consumers, and the amount of milk which is available during that time or a little earlier. Doctor, there was no proportion.
Correct. It won't be there.
There was no proportion. If you have 100 liters of milk, you cannot make 100 grams of 100 kgs of paneer out of it.
Correct.
And the amount of paneer which is consumed, and also what the point here is that you will have hundreds of coffee shops. Somebody will open up with a nice decor and a theme related. But where is your raw material coming from? The consumer, I think now they are getting a little perseverant about the fact where is your raw material coming from. And I think thanks to food defense and food fraud, and let's see how much social media can help us.
Correct. True.
Ma'am, one question from the audience, Mr. Srihari. He asked us any international standard available for GMP, that is good production practices, or GHP, good hygiene practices.
Yeah.
First, identify the purpose. Why you want it? Because GMP is an inbuilt phenomena in food safety. GHP is an inbuilt phenomena in food safety. So why you want to implement it as a standalone feature again? See, you know what? Just because we are doing food safety doesn't mean we need to have 100 standards on it. Pick up one good one. Pick up HACCP. Simple. छोड़ो बाकी सब. सिर्फ HACCP ही कर लो, कोई बात नहीं और. But do it with
But
integrity.
very true. But I don't think there will be any international standard around
No.
GHP for sure.
हाँ.
GMP also, Krishna, I think CGMP is there for pharma.
Yeah, CGMP is there, but GMP for food, they will tell you to refer codex.
Correct. Absolutely my point. I mean, CSE is something that you can refer to.
Yeah.
And yes, GAP could have a standard,
Yeah.
That is a very stern
is
and
a-
stringent standard. But
correct.
for GMP, I don't think there's an international
No.
standard available.
No, and secondly, GMP is really speaking, it's a discovery feature. You got to
Yes.
discover it ongoingly.
And
That's-
yes, and I think GMP cannot be a standard, Srihari, right, Yogesh? It cannot be a standard because it is included for every product category by the Codex Alimentarius.
Exactly.
So you will find GMP for every category of product. So it cannot be a standard by itself alone. As she said, standalone, it cannot exist like that.
Yeah. And again, it's like, it's more specific to the product attributes and characteristics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is more towards that. Yeah.
So basically, if you want to address it, it has to be addressed from that end.
Absolutely. That's why I think that's why you asked about the context or the intention to ask this. Yes.
Correct. So when we talk about GMP, GHP, it's like on the go. What are you identifying and improving your system? That's, and I'm telling you, like, I saw some very good organizations. The reason why I became an entrepreneur in food was this, because I saw that organization and I said, I want to be somebody like this. The kind of integrity I saw in their systems. They may have not had the best of the machinery in the world, but the system integrity was very high. And that will take you anywhere. See,
Absolutely.
there are two things. One is either you have the best of the machinery and you don't know what you are doing, so everything is gone. There are a few organizations with very good infrastructure, but they don't know how to operate.
True.
And then there are organizations who may have nothing for all that food is something which does not need a lot of huge investment. You can actually think of for food and you can do it, provided you have that know-how and you know how to address it. And that system integrity is very, very critical. And it begins with the leader. The
Absolutely.
top management's integrity plays a role.
Also, yeah, that's what I was going to say. You just stole my. I'm saying I've seen Haldiram.
Correct.
And when about 30 years back, and I had interaction. It has to come from the top man.
Correct.
His integrity, business ethics. That's why today is such a big empire.
True. Exactly. And it's not that they haven't gone through mess. They also have gone through a mess. And it's only because of integrity they could come out of it also.
Correct.
See, we have to learn lessons from these.
Especially,
it's not that your journey is going to be smooth. It will never be.
Especially tons and tons of their product containers were thrown in US.
Correct. Exactly. They were not allowed in US.
Yeah.
It's not a simple thing to do.
Correct.
And when we say कि अरे food business है हो जाएगा कुछ नहीं हो जाएगा करना पड़ेगा.
Integrity and ethics.
Plus everybody is jumping into this business because there is a 200 to 300% profit margin.
No. In fact, many a times I sit with the costing and I say profit दिखा किधर वो बताओ पहले. Where did you see it? Because it can't happen, no? Like, see, any business will have 30% towards your raw material, 30% towards your overheads and other things. ये तो simple formula है. कहाँ मिलेगा?
But in Gujarat, all the sweets manufactured from a small company of maybe one halwai and all. Today they have automatic, maybe thousands of this gulab jamuns are made, pedas are made, or all those things. So they have integrity. Plus, they have looked into without quality, their product is not going to.
Correct.
Plus, now automation also has helped them to have better hygiene system.
Correct. No, the demand is also there today. But only thing is that again, when you spoke of Gujarat only, The source of Mawa, a very, very big concern.
Very, very. That's
So we have all this, but वही है कि जब तक कुछ बड़ा
even
होगा नहीं तब तक हमको भी क्या है ना, ऐसा हो गया है सबको.
yeah,
Exactly.
even UP also, UP,
Yes, yes, yes.
Delhi,
Everywhere.
many Punjab.
Everywhere. There are so many people who do not know only what happens. There is
Yeah.
this there is a cereal called Mordhan, no, which is
No.
consumed a lot during the month of Shravan. Right. So basically, it got transported, and during the rainy season, and somehow the care was not taken, so the grains actually got wet, and then people consumed it because they never knew. Unfortunately, क्या है कि
Correct.
आप मैन्युफैक्चरर के एंड पे तो सब कॉम्पिटेंस मांग रहे हो, बट
Yes.
डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर, लॉजिस्टिक्स, रिटेलर, उनका तो कॉम्पिटेंस है ही नहीं. उसको
Yeah.
समझ में भी नहीं आएगा. उसको अगर वो ग्रेन पे ब्लैकनिंग भी दिखा तो उसको कुछ नहीं पता क्या है वो. तो वो
Right.
पूरा सबके घर पे चला गया, and then people consumed it and they fell sick
Yeah,
because it was laden with fungus.
yeah.
And then it
Apart from-
became a big concern because the regulatory authorities had to figure out क्या हुआ भाई ये, because वो mass level पे हो गया. See, this is
Apart from
exactly
that,
where we come.
Yeah, apart from that, that guna would have also, insect would have also
Yes, yes.
grown a big way.
Yeah. तो
That's-
ये सब चीजें भी बहुत. See, we have to understand the source, no? क्यों हो रहा है ये? So competence is required at every level. Every level.
So when we are talking about FSMS planning here, Yogesh, I think this every point, see, I'll tell you what, you cannot define this topic into a very small one, because whatever we have discussed, there are participants who must be thinking that, we are discussing about the world, but then every point is talking about FSMS planning. Why? I tell you what, just now about the black rot and the guna and whatever Dr. and Dr. Datta has mentioned, the biggest flaw in FSMS planning today, people just pick up a flowchart, list the steps down in the Excel sheet, and then they move ahead to understanding the physical में ये हो सकता है, foreign particles, biological में pathogen, over. अभी आपका सैल्मोनेला का आइडेंटिफिकेशन है या लिस्टीरिया का है या वो स्टेफिलोकोकस ऑरियस, अगर आपका एरिया इज लाइक इन ओपन, इफ यू हैव पिजन्स अराउंड, each and every strain, each and every bacteria or any germ needs to be identified separately and will have a different control mechanism.
Correct.
This I find as the biggest drawback in the FSMS plans these days. Nobody has a list of defects. Nobody has a list of pathogenic attack which is probable in your kind of food product or the process activity.
Correct.
So this, I think we have come to a very important point. I think we were missing it somewhere, that people need to understand and list down even separately. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको ऐसा ने बोला है ऐसे करना है. If you can reach this by a better workout also, you can do that. And I would say, unless you are listing the defects in your product, in your facility, and the pathogens separately, the FSMS plan, I think, of course, as per 22,003, it's required.
It will meet the requirement.
Done.
But
yeah, thumbs up is there, but then it's just like LinkedIn will not have you the laughing feature, right? So
Correct.
I can pass you on that with objective evidence also, but it could have been better.
Oh, and one more thing is there. Nobody tries to get to the source. कहाँ से आया है ये? अरे वो तो करो थोड़ा, नहीं तो यही करते रहोगे जिंदगी भर.
Customer complaint will end up by saying we consolidated and we found it with the vendor, with the customer, and we sorted the issue.
And we gave a freebie.
We gave a freebie.
That's a bigger thing. मेरे पास आया था एक बार, I found a stack of hay, okay, in the biscuit. तो मैंने complain कर दी. और मुझे पता था वो कैसे आया होगा. वो अंदर birds उड़ रहे होंगे. मैंने बोला
nesting होगा.
Let my imagination not go wild. ये biscuit खा ही नहीं सकती. And I made a complaint, और next day तो मैंने एक पैकेट लिया था तो वो पूरा 2 किलो का पैक आ गया मेरे पास. मैंने कहा प्लीज ये मत दो मुझे, आप थोड़ा कुछ एक्शन ले लो आपके तरफ से. बर्ड्स अंदर आ रहे हैं, कैसे आ रहे हैं वो देखो सर. आपको कैसे पता बर्ड्स आ रहे होंगे? मैंने कहा भाई और कहाँ से आए, कहीं और से कोई रास्ता है नहीं.
आपका बिस्किट है, we earn our daily bread with this.
Seriously.
Real real root cause, the root cause
Yeah.
analysis.
Go
that
to
is
the
missing.
source. मतलब अगर
Yeah.
स्टाफाइलोकोकस भी कह रहे हो वो आइडेंटिफाई हो रहा है तो कुछ हाइजीन रिलेटेड इशू है. देखो
Absolutely.
उधर,
Absolutely.
वहां पर देखो जरा, ध्यान दो. साल्मोनेला ऐसे ही नहीं आ जाएगा किसी में भी. वो कुछ
Exactly.
कंटामिनेशन होगा बड़ा, एंड इट इज अ फीकल कंटामिनेंट. मतलब you have to
Absolutely.
literally think
Exactly.
about it. मतलब, और honestly when I do consulting also or when I do auditing also, मुझे डर तो इसी का रहता है कि oh my god, मतलब then that product how will I consume?
Exactly.
The biggest
Exactly.
question, how will I consume? So if a consumer becomes so conscious, will they not demand a great product?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Will the industry not be driven to actually use
Exactly.
competency rather than a cut, copy,
Yes.
paste manual and FSMS plan and everything?
Very true.
Correction and corrective action.
Yeah.
Nice discussion, ma'am. I think time is already over.
Yeah.
But thanks you all both for enlightening us on the FSMS. Still, it is going on, and every time we learn a lot related to topic and just offlet the that topic that we discussed. Nice presentation, ma'am, and nice
Thank you.
discussions during the participation and enlightening us about this. Thanks, Dr. Katare, also
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
yeah, and also for Mr. Sumit Saxena regarding his views. He was a speaker for other topics also, but this topic was very much relevant from the FSMS point of view, standard requirements, getting it, and then going ahead with maintaining it and implementing and maintaining it. Thanks you all for joining this session, and hope you will continue to be associated with us and enlighten us on this food safety for upcoming sessions. Thank you, Pramod sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Now-
It was
Thanks a lot,
really
Krishna.
nice. Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Sumit. It was so
now,
nice meeting you.
Yeah. Same here.
now I hand over to Mansima for the conclusion.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I would like to express my gratitude to all the panelists for their willingness to participate in panel discussion and doing justice to today's topic. Our next session of Food Hygiene and Food Safety series is on statutory and regulatory requirements. This shall be taken up by Mr. Amrendra Mahamuni. ICS is pleased to provide you all its research and development. We have published books on integrated management system, QMS, EMS, and OSHA's, excellence in education management, ISO made easy in Gujarati, Marathi, Telugu, and Hindi. You may contact Ms. Sushma Kindarkar for reading or purchasing of this book. We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. Please log in to your page or register on www.sadgunsang.org and provide your feedback. Thank you for being the part of Sadgunsang on Food Safety Management System Plan. Wish you all a happy weekend. We officially close the ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna ji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
We'll
you,
keep
Saxena,
meeting
sir.
again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doctor, for bringing I and Krishna at the same time.
Thank you, Sumit ji.